All right, guys, so now we can register a user and we can get a JSON web token back that has the user ID payload. So what we need to do now is make it so that we can send that token back to authenticate and access protected routes. So the way that we're going to do that is creating our own custom middleware. So I'm going to create a folder in the root. Let me just close all this stuff up. So we're going to create a folder in the root called middleware. And if you saw the first version of this course, then you know that we used Passport, which is it's middleware that does this stuff for us, but it's very heavy and there's really no need to use it. I basically used it just to try to make things easier, but I think in turn it made things more difficult. So I would if you're doing something like this, there's really no need for Passport unless you're trying to implement like Facebook login and Twitter login and stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and create inside middleware a file called auth.js. And this is only going to be like less than 20 lines of code, something like that. So we want to bring in JSON web token, so JWT, and we want to require JSON web token, and we're also going to bring in our config because we're going to need the secret. So let's bring in config from require config. All right, so we need to export this. So module dot exports, and this is going to be a function. All right, now since this is a middleware function, it's going to take in three things. It's going to take in request, response, and next. So a middleware function is basically just a function that has access to the request and response cycle or the request and response objects. And then next is actually a callback that we have to run once we're done so that it moves on to the next piece of middleware. All right, now inside here we want to do a couple things. I'm just going to use comments here just to be clear, but we want to get the token from the header. Okay, when we send a request to a protected route, we need to send the token within a header. So let's create a variable called token, and we can get it with request because we have access to that request object, which has a header property, and the header we want to get is going to be x-auth-token. Okay, so that's basically the key, that the header key that we want to send along, that we want to send the token in. All right, and then we want to check if no token. So if there's no token, then we're going to return a response, a status, and the status is going to be 401, which is not authorized. Okay, so let's do 401.json, and we're going to send a message, and we're just going to say no token, authorization denied. All right, so that's if there's no token. Then we want to verify the token if there is one. So we're going to actually put this inside of a try catch. All right, so within here, we'll create a variable called decoded, and we need to basically decode that token, and we can do that with jwt.verify. Okay, so verify takes in two things: the actual token, okay, or the token that's sent in the header, and also the secret, which we can get with config.get, config.get, and then jwt secret. All right, so that will decode the token. Now what we need to do is take the request object and assign a value to user. Okay, so request.user, I'm going to set to that decoded value, which has user in the payload, because remember we attached user with the ID in the payload. So now we're setting that request.user, and then the last thing we want to do here is call next, okay, like you would in any middleware. All right, in the catch, this will run if the token is not valid. So let's do a res.status, and let's do a we'll do a 401.json, and we'll just do message, and let's say token is not valid. All right, and that's it. That's our middleware. So just to kind of reiterate what's going on here, we're exporting a middleware function that has the request response object available to it. We're getting the token from the header using request.header, and we're looking at X auth token. That's what we need to send it in. If there's no token at all and the route is protected and using this middleware, then it's just going to send a 401 with a denied message. If there is a token but it's not valid, then it's going to run this catch, which will just say it's not valid. If it is, then it's going to decode it through JWT verify. So it'll put that inside this decoded object, which then we want to set the request.user to the user that's in that decoded token. All right, then we can use that request.user in any of our routes, any of our protected routes, and we could, for instance, get the user's profile. All right, so hopefully that makes sense, guys. So now what I want to do is implement this into a protected route. So let's see. What I want to do is I want to put this inside of our auth route. Okay, we're going to start to work in auth, so routes, API, auth.js, which right now we just have a test route. Now I actually, let's see, we could use this get API /auth. I was going to do /user, but no, I think this should be good. So we'll keep the same route. So it's a get request to API /auth. And I want to use the middleware, so I'm going to bring it in by doing const auth equals require, and let's see, where are we? We want to go outside of API, outside of routes, into middleware, and then auth. And then whenever we want to use this middleware, we simply add it as a second parameter like this. Okay, so just doing that is going to make this this route protected. So if I save this and we go back to Postman, I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to make a GET request to HTTP localhost port 5000 /API /auth, and I'm going to send. And I get a no token authorized deny. So you can see that this route is protected. Now, if I want to actually access it and get whatever it does, which in this case it just responds with auth route, I'm going to change that. But just to show you how to get that, we can take our token, we registered a user, got a token, it doesn't expire for whatever, a long time. I'm going to make it an hour before we go into production, but for now it's a while. So I'm going to just copy that token, go back to this route here, and I'm going to go to my headers and add a key of x-auth-token, and let's paste in that value. All right, so I'll go ahead and send, and there we go, we get auth route. Now if I change this token to something that's not correct, like I'll just put a 1 in there and send, we get token is not valid. All right, so our middleware is doing its job and it's validating that token for us. Now I want this route to actually return the user's data. So let's go back to the route here, and instead of just doing a res.send directly, let's put some curly braces in here, and we're going to do a try catch because we're going to make a call to our database, and we're using a sync await. So we're going to label this function right here a sync, and inside of our try, let's do const user, and we're going to do await, take our user model, which I actually have to bring in, so let me bring that in up here. So this is going to be require, and this is where is this // models /user. All right, so this user model we're going to call .find by ID. And since this is a protected route and we use the token which has the ID, and in our middleware we set request.user to the user in the token, we can simply pass in request.user. Okay, we can access it from anywhere or anywhere in a protected route, and we want the ID. All right, now I don't want to return the password, so what we can do is we can actually add on .select, and we can do in here a string of -password, and that will leave off the password in the data. And then finally we just want to do res.json, and we want to send along the user. All right, and if something goes wrong here, let's just do our console error dot message, and then res.status. Let's do 500 send server error. All right, so that should do it. Let's save it. So now if I go back and I have my token and I send, I get back all my user data. All right, so what we're going to do in our React application later on is we're going to constantly make a request with the token if we're authenticated, and we're going to fill our state, our React, or I should say Redux state, our application state is going to have a user value with our user object with this stuff in it, so we know which user is logged in at all the time. Now I do want to save this, so I'm going to go ahead and say save as, and I'm going to choose the users and auth collection, and let's save this as get, we'll just say get auth user, and we'll save. Okay, so now we can call that anytime with any token that we want, and this token will be used as default for this request. Now in the next video I want to make it so we can actually log in, because right now we can register, it gives us a token back, but we want to be able to take the credentials of a user, the email and password, and send that to a route and get the token back as well, okay, just like it does with the registration. So that's what we're going to work on in the next video.